Hi, this is Chen. I am a graduate student of agriculture in the University of Florida, and now I want to introduce my thesis. It's a comparative study of how American and Chinese newspapers use their framing strategies to report on GMO foods. Okay, let's start. First, I want to introduce the background. Um, as we know, GM foods is a controversial topic in both China and the US, because the public in both China and US debated on various topics about GM foods, for example, safety, biocontamination, and labeling. And from the audience perspective, um, I mean, media and university scientists are more trustworthy than industry because industries are less reliable because the public think they are interest oriented. Um, the media is a crucial channel that consumers get information and knowledge about GMO food. So they're, to some extent, they are the consumers are influenced by the media because the general audience has no direct experience with these scientific and technological advances. And then the study purpose. The purpose of the study is to determine how newspapers in China and the US frame their coverage on GM food and clarify the differences in framing strategies between the two nations. The significance of the study. GM foods, concerns a great group of people. It is also influential in national economics and politics. Besides, and from another hand, GM is a potential technology. We cannot say it is risky or beneficial now, but overwhelming influence from the public may affect technology development. And then is the international market. As we know, China and the US are an important market for both of them. China became US third largest trade partner, while US became China's second largest trade partner. The theoretical framework. Okay, first is agenda setting. Agenda setting is a process that media set issues into public agenda through news articles. And the next is news framing. News framing is what's the angle, keywords, themes, and sub-themes used by journalists to report this issue. And these two theories are the most frequently mentioned in mass media research. And then there is the media environment in China and the US. As we know, people here are commonly accepted that China's media is controlled by government. Yes, to some extent it is true, but in the past 10 years, the Chinese media has experienced a trend of marketization. The for example, in China, the existence of television programs are determined by its audience, ratings, and advertising income. Um, and the US work further than China in the way of commercialization. Similar to Chinese newspapers government-oriented, American newspapers are controlled by financial groups. While there is no doubt that American press is still the most professional and effective media in the world. Food regulations. The food regulations is, China is a mandatory labeling country, while US is a voluntary labeling country. Because while the American USDA, they think if the ingredients of the final produce are equivalent to the food in the market, there is no need to label it. While the labeling in Europe, China, Japan, and most countries are mandatory. Consumers' perceptions toward GM food. According to the researches conducted by the scientists, while the results varied in different regions and countries in the world, we can say to some extent, the European people know better than American people, and American consumers know better than Chinese consumers. Um, there is a new research result get by the University of Florida, the the agricultural economics department. The consumers' attitudes toward GM food vary widely across the world. It is also fair to note that public opinion is moving slowly towards acceptance of biotech foods. It is interesting, huh? The methodology. Um, the population first. The population, all of the GM food coverage published by selected American and Chinese newspapers. The time frame I choose is from January the 1st, 2012 to December the 31st, 2013, because in 2 years time frame presented a significant period in the progress of the GM food issues both in China and the US. And also, I can get enough samples in these 2 years. And next question is how to select sample newspapers from two countries. I have three standards. First, it should be a national and comprehensive newspapers. And second, it should have a high circulation. Um, because the national newspapers, it has a better and comprehensive perspective than regional newspapers. Um, some newspapers, they have lower circulation but higher social influence, and the news are transferred by other newspapers. So that's why I have the third standard, high social influence. And then I selected four newspapers totally. From China, it is People's Daily and 21st Century Business Insights. And for American newspapers, I selected New York Times and Wall Street Journal. So you can see People's Daily and New York Times are the national comprehensive newspapers in both countries, while the 21st Century and the Wall Street Journal are the representatives of the economics paper. Research questions. I created three research questions to collect data about frames, information sources, and tones. You can see the frames, sources, and tone. And from the sub-questions, you can see the comparison is made between two countries and between the comprehensive newspapers and the economic newspapers. Methodology. How to get sample news articles from newspapers. Well, as we experience, we conduct this similar studies before. We need to get access to the news articles in the databases. But the question I have for my study is, I cannot get access to the news articles for four of the newspapers because we can find People's Daily and the New York Times in one database, but I cannot get access to four of them. So my solution is I will get the news articles from their websites. And so the first, I use keywords such as genetic modification, biotechnology, bioengineering, GM, and GM foods to search related articles in the newspaper's website. And the second is to save the articles. Because, the editors of the website, they always have the right to delete the pages they think they want to delete according to some changes. I don't know. Yeah, but sometimes when I come back to want to find some specific articles, you will find they have already been deleted. So just save it. Just in case, in some situations, you will come back to find original data. And then third is read through each article and delete unrelated ones. Because sometimes you can find this article, it is about biotechnology, but this is the GM, this technology applied to medical um, or about flu. It is unrelated with our topic. Our topic is about GMO food. Um, and then give each news article item ID and create files. And then I created a code book. In the code book, you can see that the first part is the general questions, the item ID, and the categories of the newspaper, date of publication, length of article, and the newspaper section. And after the general questions are the research questions. Um, yeah, I mean in the research questions, we can get data about frames, information, information sources, and the tones. After you get the data from each news article, you can use SPSS or Minitab to test the data from these newspapers uh, to see if there any significant differences between the comparisons, and then analyzing the differences based on American and Chinese social media and political backgrounds. And this part is always put in the discussion part of the thesis. Um, and there is one important thing I need to note is the dependability, the reliability test. Because we know everybody has his or her bias to see something. So, because I am the only researcher in my study, um, I need to make sure, my study result has the dependability and my research um, can be duplicated by other researchers. So I randomly select 20% of all the articles and code them with another coder to make sure we will achieve a 95% of coincidence. This is a very difficult job. Like, the two people's result will overlap over 95%. We are doing it. Summary. Okay, so in a short in a nutshell, my study is about GMO food, and GM food has reflected many aspects of our lives, from food safety, environment, food industries, and regulation systems to policy making. And also, in newspapers have been an important and major way for the public to get information and knowledge about GM foods. The research design for this study was a quantitative content analysis. We utilize coding sheet to collect data, thus find out and compare the frames used by American and Chinese newspapers. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. If you have some further questions, you can get my email address from the instructor, and any questions are welcome. Thank you.